Once upon a time, in a land shimmering with gold and steeped in legend, there lived a powerful king. This king was blessed not with one, but with 7 beautiful and devoted queens. Their palace echoed with laughter, and the kingdom thrived under their gentle influence. For years, their lives were a tapestry woven with threads of joy and prosperity. But as we all know, happiness can be as fragile as a butterfly's wing. The king, in a moment of fancy, brought home a new wife. She was beautiful, yes, but her beauty was a mask for a heart as dark and twisted as a thorny briar. She was an ogress, a creature of deceit and malice. The ogress queen's arrival cast a long shadow over the sunlit palace. Her eyes, filled with a venomous jealousy, followed the 7 queens everywhere they went. She couldn't stand their happiness, their bond, or the love the king held for them. Consumed by her envy, she began to spin a web of lies, a wicked plan to tear them from the king's heart forever. One day, she approached the king with tears in her eyes and a story of betrayal on her lips. She accused the 7 queens of a terrible, unthinkable crime, a crime so heinous that it made the king's blood run cold. The king, so enchanted by the ogress's beauty and so blinded by her crocodile tears, didn't question her story. In a fit of rage and grief, he pronounced a sentence that would haunt him for the rest of his days. He ordered his 7 queens, all of whom were pregnant with his children, to be blinded and thrown into a deep, desolate well, left to perish in the darkness. The 7 queens, their world plunged into an endless night, were cast into the cold, damp well. The echoes of their pleas for mercy faded into silence. Down in that abyssal prison, a new, desperate chapter of their lives began. In the suffocating darkness, one by one, they gave birth. 7 new lives entered the world, but their cries were swallowed by the stone walls of the well. Days turned into weeks, and starvation began to gnaw at them. Faced with an impossible choice, a decision that would shatter their souls, 6 of the queens made a heart-wrenching pact. To survive, they would have to sacrifice their newborn babies. It was a tragedy born of utter desperation. But the youngest queen, her heart overflowing with a mother's fierce love, could not bear the thought. She could not harm her child. Under the cover of darkness and sorrow, she hid her baby boy, whispering promises of life to him while her own stomach ached with hunger. She secretly saved her son, a tiny spark of hope in a world of despair. Years crawled by in the suffocating blackness of the well. The young prince grew up knowing nothing but the cold stone walls, the feel of his mother's hand, and the sound of his aunt's voices. His world was not one of sunlight and castles, but of stories. His mother and aunts would weave tales of a world beyond the well, a world of vibrant colors, bustling markets, and a benevolent king. They filled his mind with images of a life he had never seen, planting a seed of curiosity that began to sprout in his young heart. He longed to see the blue sky they described, to feel the warmth of the sun on his skin, to witness the world his mother spoke of with such love and sorrow. One day, that seed of curiosity blossomed into an unshakable desire. He had to see it for himself. With a strength born from years of confinement, the young prince began to climb. He found footholds in the rough-hewn stone, his fingers gripping desperately, pulling himself up, towards the single point of light that had been his only star. Finally, with a last heaving effort, he pulled himself over the edge and into the unknown. The world that greeted him was overwhelming. The sunlight was blinding, the colors more vivid than any story could describe. He was a stranger in his own land. He wandered for days, his heart a mixture of awe and loneliness, until his path led him to the royal city. There, by a stroke of fate, he encountered a man whose face was etched with a profound and endless grief. It was the king, his father. The king was still mourning the loss of his beloved 7 queens, his heart a hollow chamber of regret. He saw in the boy a strange familiarity, a flicker of a past he thought was lost forever. But someone else saw him too. The ogress queen, her power now absolute in the palace, recognized the prince immediately. The boy was the living embodiment of the secret she had tried to bury in the well. She saw him not as a child, but as a threat to her reign, a ghost from the past come to haunt her. Her mind, ever fertile with wickedness, began to hatch a new series of plots. She would not rest until the boy was gone for good. She feigned a sudden, grave illness, her body racked with pretend shivers and moans. From her sickbed, she declared that only a series of impossible remedies could save her life, each one a death trap designed to send the brave young prince to his doom. The king, desperate to save his new wife, sent the prince on the first perilous quest. The ogress demanded the milk of a tigress who had just given birth. Everyone knew that a mother tigress was the fiercest creature in the jungle, and to approach her cubs was certain death. But the prince, armed with the wisdom his mother had instilled in him and a heart full of courage, did not falter. He found the tigress's lair, and instead of using force, he spoke to her with respect and empathy, mother to son. The tigress, sensing the purity of his heart, allowed him to take the milk. He returned to the palace, triumphant. The ogress queen's fury burned, but she hid it behind a weak smile. Next, she demanded a feather from a giant, mythical bird that lived atop the highest, most treacherous mountain. The journey was fraught with peril, but the prince, clever and resourceful, managed to outwit the great bird and pluck a single, shimmering feather. Again, he returned unharmed. With each success, the ogress queen's desperation grew. For her final test, she demanded the water from a forbidden spring, a spring guarded by powerful spirits who would destroy any mortal who dared to approach. But the prince, through his bravery and kindness, appeased the spirits and returned with the magical water. With each impossible task completed, the prince grew not only in fame, but also in understanding. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, the ogress queen's impossible demands, the king's endless sorrow, and the stories his mother had told him in the dark. He had unraveled the ogress queen's web of lies. During a grand feast at the palace, the prince stood before the king and the entire court. He presented the feather, the milk, and the water, but then he told a story. He told the story of 7 blinded queens, of 7 newborn babies, and of a deep, dark well. As he spoke, the truth dawned on the king's face, washing away years of deception. The king, his heart shattered with remorse and guilt, raced from the palace, his guards trailing behind him. He galloped to the forgotten, desolate well. There he found them, his 7 queens, frail and blind, but alive. He pulled them from their prison, weeping and begging for their forgiveness. As the sunlight touched their faces for the first time in years, a miracle occurred. Their sight was magically restored. They looked upon their husband, the king, and then they saw their son, the brave prince, standing tall and proud. It was a reunion that healed years of pain. The wicked ogress queen, her evil deeds exposed to all, was banished from the kingdom, her darkness finally cast out. The king, with his 7 beloved queens by his side and their courageous son, ruled with newfound wisdom and compassion. And in that kingdom, finally cleansed of evil, they all lived happily ever after. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more tailies from around the world.